In the annals of history, not a single figure looms as large and towering as Alexander the Great. A conqueror without equal, he strode across continents, leaving a trail of awe and fear in his path, combined with sheer admiration in his wake not only by his men and allies, but also with most of his enemies. But who was this enigmatic leader? What drove him to such dizzying heights of ambition, and why did he become the greatest man in all history? Born in Pella, Macedonia, around July 20th, 356 BCE, Alexander was the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. From a young age, he was groomed for greatness, receiving a rigorous education under the tutelage of esteemed scholars and mentors. His early years were marked by remarkable achievements and displays of courage. At the age of 10, he famously tamed a wild horse named Bucephalus, earning his father's admiration and a kingdom-sized gift. Under the tutoring guidance of Aristotle, one of history's greatest philosophers, Alexander delved into a wide array of subjects, preparing himself for the challenges that lay ahead. At 16, Alexander faced his first test of leadership when his father entrusted him with the governance of Macedon in his absence. Demonstrating resolve and strategic qualities, he swiftly quelled a rebellion by the Thracian Maiadi, earning prestige from his father upon his return. Over the following years, Alexander accompanied Philip on military campaigns, solidifying Macedonian dominance over Greek city-states. However, familial and political tensions simmered beneath the surface. Philip's marriage to Eurydice threatened Alexander's position as heir to the throne, prompting discord within the royal household. Following Philip's assassination in 336 BCE, Alexander ascended to the throne amidst intrigue and uncertainty. To secure his reign, he swiftly eliminated potential rivals, including Attalus, his cousin, and the remaining relatives of his stepmother. With the throne secured, Alexander turned his gaze towards Persia, envisioning a vast empire under his command. In 334 BCE, he embarked on the most legendary military campaign in recorded history, leading a relatively small, yet extremely formidable army into Asia Minor. The battle at the Granicus River marked his first encounter with Persian forces, showcasing his tactical brilliance and audacious leadership. Despite facing numerically far superior opponents, Alexander's forces emerged victorious, laying the foundation for his conquest of the Persian Empire. Soon after, his conquest of Persian territory progressed on, with a decisive victory as Alexander seized Sardis, the heart of Lydia. From there, he charted his course along the Ionian coast, liberating towns from Persian rule and kindling the flames of autonomy. Despite relentless efforts by the Persian navy to thwart him, Alexander preferred the solid ground beneath his feet for battle. His first major siege unfolded at Halicarnassus, where he confronted formidable defenses and a resilient populace. Queen Ada, ousted from her city, sought refuge in the fortress of Alinda, ultimately surrendering to Alexander's forces. Yet, the city itself proved a formidable adversary, its walls bristling with catapults. Through perseverance and valor, Alexander's army breached the defenses, though not without cost. Halicarnassus fell, and its flames and destruction stand as a testament to the price of resistance. The tale takes a twist at Gordium, where a fabled knot awaited Alexander's touch. Legend proclaimed that he who unraveled it would claim dominion over Asia. With characteristic resolve, Alexander severed the knot with a single stroke of his sword, defying the enigma with sheer determination. As his conquests unfurled, Alexander faced his greatest challenge yet at the Battle of Issus with the army of Darius. Despite the odds, his tactical qualities and dauntless leadership secured victory, propelling him ever forward on his path of conquest. Tyre, a much-hated Phoenician banking bastion in the Mediterranean, stood as a testament to resilience against Alexander's might. 7 months of blockade preceded a daring causeway construction in deep seawater, which on itself rivals an engineering feat like building the Eiffel Tower. This massive causeway with 2 siege towers leading to a brutal reckoning within the city's walls. These 2 marvels of engineering, building a 1.5-kilometer-long causeway in an astonishing 300-meter deep water, and then building 2 siege towers of nearly 90 meters high each, is still today regarded as nearly impossible and would take today in our modern times still at least 4 to 5 years. Yet Alexander managed it in less than 7 months with just primitive means, and this was just a minor speck on his entire map of achievements. Gaza defied the conqueror as well, its towering defenses seeming impervious until Alexander's indomitable will completely destroyed its ramparts. Jerusalem's gates swung open in welcoming him, and echoing prophecies of Alexander's destiny. After which, arriving in Egypt, which suffered under the oppression of the Persian Empire, elevating him to a divine status at the oracle of Siwa, as the son of Amun, and alongside their previous pharaohs, he was hailed as a liberator and immediately bestowed with the title Pharaoh of Egypt, on which soon after he restored Egypt to its former glory, and even founded a city on the Mediterranean coast with a magnificent designed harbour by his architects on his command that still bears his name today as Alexandria. This city is just one of the 18 cities he founded, of which 16 still exist today as vibrant big cities. Iskenderun and Kanakkale in Turkey, Jerash in Jordan, Herat in Afghanistan, and Islamabad in Pakistan being just a few of them. Although King Darius was not defeated yet, he assembled, with all the resources he had still available to him, the biggest army ever in classical history of 500,000 men, to defeat Alexander once and for all in a final showdown. And so it came to be that the most epic battle in history had its theatre at the small village of Gaugamela in modern-day Iraq, which turned out to be Alexander's greatest and most decisive battle by defeating Darius for the 3rd time and completely crushing his vast 500,000 men strong army, with just his 47,000 troops in a magnificent display of military craftsmanship and an astonishing display of daring courage of biblical proportions. Thus, in doing so, he became the ruler of the whole empire of Persia, the biggest empire the world had ever seen at that time, and left Darius fleeing for his life during the battle immediately after Alexander personally nearly killed him with a throwing spear from a distance of approximately 50 to 80 meters. From Babylon to Persepolis, Alexander's march echoed with the unstoppable thunder of conquest. Darius, his elusive foe, fearing for his life and being still on the run, ultimately met a tragic end, being betrayed and murdered by one of his own generals and cousin Bessus, on which soon after the latter was chased by Alexander and executed as a king-slayer, therewith setting the stage for Alexander's ascension as the King of Kings. King Darius, however, was buried with full honours back in Persepolis, like all his royal predecessors, in the royal tombs. As his march to India progressed on, he crossed the highest, coldest, most dangerous and most difficult mountain range in the world called the Himalayas, with nearly zero losses of men or equipment, in temperatures ranging from freezing to -40 degrees blowing winds on extremely dangerous and ice-slippery tracks. This on itself already being an achievement infinitely bigger than any army ever did before or since in world history. Yet, arrived in India, dissent simmered within his ranks. The soldiers, weary and longing for home, after more than 100 battles, of which all victorious, his troops halted firmly at further conquest. Despite all his victories, Alexander's dreams to conquer the whole world collided with the realities of his army's limits. Alexander became furious for 3 full days and did not leave his tent or received anyone, after which he relented against his will, due to overwhelming protests of his own men, and finally turned home to his conquered Babylon. Albeit, on his way returning home, still defeating King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes, on which he was confronted with 280 heavily trained war elephants, being this the bloodiest battle of his entire campaign, yet emerging again victorious, upon which Alexander honorably gave King Porus his empire back the very next day, because Alexander was impressed how bravely Porus fought to keep his kingdom until the last man. This impressed Porus to such degree that he could not control himself emotionally in front of Alexander and bowed to him with tears in his eyes. After the battle with Porus, he conquered several other tribes as well, further on his way to the coastline of the Indian Ocean. Once arrived back in Babylon, and against the odds of being an extremely physically sturdy and toughly built individual, Alexander became gravely ill and finally succumbed to a fever of unknown origin in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar. Being poisoned in combination with excessive use of alcohol or malaria from India being the cause of his early departure from this world. Either way, Alexander met his end, leaving behind a legacy that would echo the loudest through all ages. After his death, his aura and legacy was so great that his generals did not even dare to have meetings without the presence of his shield, sword and armor at the head of the table, as not only out of sheer honor, but moreover out of fear of his mighty spirit which lived in the mind of all his soldiers, as well as from respect by even most of his enemies due to his sheer greatness in the most daring and brilliant of accomplishments. Though today his body rests in an unknown tomb, Alexander's spirit lives on in the annals of history as a warrior, general and king, with an unrivaled track record of achievements that still surpasses that of any other human being in recorded history. Despite other conquerors or empires having a larger landmass of conquest to their names, such as Genghis Khan or the Roman Empire, his name remains etched in the sands of time as the greatest man of all time. For he achieved all this in an astonishingly short time span of even less than 13 years, with a meager army of about 47,000 troops, of which most of them were slow-moving foot soldiers, operating mostly in extreme difficult terrain circumstances, such as mountainous Asia Minor, impenetrable Persia and the Himalayas, and never losing a single battle in the process, despite being overwhelmingly outnumbered by his enemies during most of his battles. Alexander even outperformed the rules of engagements written by Sun Tzu some centuries later in his Art of War, as the only commander in history in most of his battles, and still appearing as victorious, with even an extreme minimum of casualties on the side of his own army, in contrary to the forces of his enemies. His name, Part the Great, can therefore never be overstated. Never before and never since in history has there been a human being with such an impressive list of achievements behind his name, so generous and honorable to his enemies, so inspiring to his men, so that they achieved the nearly impossible, and so daring in courage, combined with his astonishing intellect and political strategy. His eternal legacy stands as a testament to the spirit of human ambition, honor, grace, military prowess, determination, political skill, leadership, intelligence, vision, courage, and everlasting glory. Megas Alexandros, the greatest man of all time.